and we will slowly start letting our guests in. I just wanted to let you know that we had almost 200 registrations for this webinar, which is an absolute record for EPDE. That also speaks to the importance of this topic and interest of both Moldovan, Armenian, and international community in lessons learned from the last two election cycles in Moldova, as well as how they translate into the Armenian context in light of the upcoming elections there very, very shortly. So I will start by just saying a couple of words about EPDE for those who are joining us for the first time. We are based in Berlin, and we are a secretariat of a network of almost 20 election observation organizations from a number of countries throughout Europe and the Eastern Partnership. Our members include organizations such as Promo-LEX from Moldova, Transparency International, or HVC from Armenia, which I believe are all present here today with us. And the idea for this webinar, perhaps a series of webinars, was based on our presence in Moldova for the last two election cycles there, and how impressed we were both with the challenges and how those challenges were tackled by the institutions. We believe that there are challenges that Armenia is facing ahead of the upcoming elections, and we wanted this to be a platform for the exchange of lessons learned from the Moldovan end. And we have the deputy chair of the Central Election Commission of the Republic of Moldova, Mr. Pavel Postica, who is with us not for the first time. We also have a representative of the Armenian CEC, Mr. Armen Smbatyan, as well as Mr. Tigran Babikyan, who's also representing the Armenian CEC and is working with issues such as oversight and audits. And from the citizen election observers and civil society side, we have our very good colleague, Sona Ayvazyan, who is the head of Transparency International in Yerevan. And if we could please start with presentations, perhaps of 8, 9, 10 minutes each, that will be interpreted into English, Armenian, and or Romanian, depending on who is speaking. Mr. Postica, if you could please start just giving us sort of a high-level executive account of what worked in terms of responses to the challenges from the side of the Moldovan CEC and other institution, specific lessons that you've learned on finance oversight and compliance of the actors who took part in the elections, the continuity of the election day, so the continuity of the voting process on E-Day, as well as how the institutions, including the CEC, were managing disinformation from the institutional standpoint, from the context of elections. If you can do all that within 10 minutes, that would be very, very appreciated. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Mulțumim mult, în primul rând.
Thank you, first of all, for the invitation to share from the experience of Moldova to organize election processes, very important election processes for our country, but in a regional context, we are coming out this war, which is at the border of Moldova, and which prejudices directly the policies of Moldova. I, for one, am not sure if I'm going to manage in 8 to 9 minutes to tell you everything about our experiences. However, I will try to point out the most important elements. And when we talk about the most important elements, I think the key of success of our success, of our country's success to resist this illegal external involvement were a few keywords, and these few keywords can be summarized in taking responsibility and assuming your decision, cooperation, and coordination of our efforts to respond to the threats. So these few basic elements helped us in resisting these challenges because we were not afraid to apply the law where applicable, including to apply sanctions. This is what I am talking about when I talk about taking responsibility. Secondly, as a central election center, we tried to coordinate the efforts of all the authorities who helped in organizing the election process, and we collaborated with all the public authorities which were involved and which helped us in organizing this election process. In other words, I would also like to highlight that before organizing the process in 2025, we tried to see which are the main challenges, the main risks, and we identified 6 major fields where we would have had encountered such issues. And now I'm talking about financing aspects in the election campaign. Second aspect regards assuring cybernetic security of the election process. The third aspect regards the ensuring a correct process which may reflect elections in the traditional media and the online. And other 3 aspects regard organizing the election process. First of all, we talk about checking the compliance of deputies with the requirements set by the law, organizing the election process abroad, and organizing the election process in the Transnistria region of Moldova for the electors from this region. But in the context of external and sensitive threats, we applied the first 3, we had the first 3 challenges we identified. Repeat, political financing, assuring cybernetic security, and communication in the media, the reflection and communication in traditional media and in the online, on the online. In all 3 challenges, we created at the level of the Central Election Center work groups where we invited colleagues from other public authorities who advised us and helped us and who offered information in order to face such challenges. So on each and every work group, we invited persons from various public authorities. If we talk, for example, about political financing, we invited colleagues from the police, from the tax service, from the National Anticorruption Center, from the General Prosecutor's Office in order to be able to answer all challenges. In case related to traditional mass media and online environment, we invited colleagues from the police, from the Audiovisual Council, from the Strategic Communication Center and Disinformation Fighting Against Center. And when we talk about cybernetic security, of course, we invited the colleagues from the resort public authorities, the IT service and security service, colleagues from the service to assure cybernetic security, and respectively electronic governance agency, and so on. This was our work mechanism, and each and every work group we tried at a technical level and expert level to see which are current and future challenges and tried to find replies to answers to these challenges beforehand. And last but not least, I would like to underline that beyond such work groups, conventional work groups which we created, we have also based our work on cooperation not only between amongst public authorities, but also in relation to our colleagues in civil society and development partners. So we did not avoid to admit the issues that exist, to request the support of our colleagues, including from the civil society and development partners when we took into account certain necessities like information campaign, which we developed at the level of the Central Election Commission. And therefore, together with all these parties, we try to find solutions for each and every problem. I am very happy to see here colleagues from Armenia, and I have to say that I also had the possibility to talk to them immediately after our elections, more informally and more in detail. We actually told them about certain experiences that we had here in Moldova. And once again, I would like to repeat what we tried to do is to provide a full cooperation amongst all the authorities of our country, because our purpose was very simple. I think that we are aware that when it comes to elections, it's not only about technical accomplishment or of voting right, but when we talk about elections, we understand that it's about the security of our country. So when due to or because of certain external threats, the vote of citizens can be altered. These are aspects that are related not only to elections, but also to the security of our country. And this is a red flag that we were aware of, and we made all the efforts in order uh, to solve it, to settle it. We know that there are external actors who want to get involved in the election process in Moldova, and they want to alter and prejudice this project by their interventions. I will stop here now because these are the few minutes that I had at hand. I wanted to highlight the main aspects that we um, highlighted. So identifying the risks of challenges and common joint solutions of all public authorities, and finding solutions to these risks. This is briefly the key of success in Moldova, at least in my personal view.
Thank you very much, Mr. Postica, both for your very insightful presentation as well as sticking so well to the time limit. Before we pass the microphone to Mr. Smbatyan, Secretary of the Central Election Commission of Armenia, I would like to let our participants know that there is a Q&A option. We will have a Q&A part, so please use it. This is the built-in Zoom Q&A. Please write your questions there. It is open now, so during the presentations you can already type in your questions. It would be very helpful if you also direct your questions to an individual speaker, not to the entire panel. And Mr. Smbatyan, the floor is yours. We would really appreciate you describing the current approach of the CEC to campaign finance oversight, as well as disinformation, countering disinformation efforts, how the CEC will communicate when election-related misleading claims are circulated, and how that would link to official information channels. And on top of that, perhaps there were things that Mr. Postica mentioned already that you thought might be very relevant to the Armenian context in the 2026 elections. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will speak in Armenian, and I would like to be sure that everything is okay if I speak in Armenian with translation. Okay.
Hello again, everybody. I appreciate. One moment, please.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me arrange my acoustics. So first of all, thank you for this initiative. It is extremely important for us to hear more about the Moldovan experience. And I am sure that we have enough time to prepare, to do all of our preparation work, and to include in our agenda the issues that must be discussed. So later on, I am sure we will have the chance to discuss them further. And for now, I think this part of our agenda regarding the topics that we are going to discuss, I think it is not entirely clear to us. Let me explain what I mean. I think for example, audit services, that the topics were already elected. I would much prefer to discuss the topics in advance with us, because it's our priority. And for the oversight service, we have specialized legislation, especially regarding the donations. And in this regard, I think it would be more efficient for us to also include the Anti-Corruption Committee if we want to discuss donations, for example. In any case, I do hope that the Oversight Committee will share, the Audit Committee will share what we are planning in this regard. In regards to the Central Electoral Committee and our strategic approach that is being developed in regards to handling misinformation, disinformation, fake information. In that regard, I would like to say that we are currently paying utmost importance to that topic. We are studying the possible outcomes and solutions. And only a few hours ago, we had a meeting with our partners from the Eastern Partnership organizations, and we are positive that the Central Electoral Committee will handle this problem in depth. The first problem will be to find the misinformation and disinformation that is already coming into circulation. And this topic is, of course, broadly discussed. And this is the stage we are starting with, to identify disinformation and misinformation. The next step would be to evaluate the information as to how true or false it is, how much it pertains to us, what threats it carries, and how the problem must be addressed. Because during elections, we all know that there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation. But, for example, if it pertains to parties spreading disinformation about one another, this is a very separate issue. But the misinformation and disinformation that pertains to the overall work of the Central Electoral Committee or the overall elections must be addressed differently. And since information, as you know, carries a lot of importance in the political and in the social life, we pay utmost importance to planning, combating misinformation and disinformation. And I am very glad to share with you that in this regard, we are having great progress, and moreover, in the coming week, we are ready to share a lot of materials with our citizens that will help clarify a lot of information, and we will share that information with everyone who is eligible to vote in the Republic of Armenia. We can have a few layers of official open information only for citizens. We have a page, a website for our CEC, which is not holding a huge traffic, only above 10,000 for now. But we have diverse materials for our colleagues, for our international colleagues, for our local colleagues and partners. And we try to share as much information as possible to have the official sources backing whatever is being discussed. And this is how the Central Electoral Committee is responding to different kinds of information, misinformation and disinformation. And frankly, I learned something from today's meeting already, that we need to set our criteria as to how damaging this or that information can be, because we often try to combat disinformation, but only make it more accessible and only amplify the misinformation voices. So we need to assess and evaluate how damaging the information itself can be, and only based on that we should plan the way we combat it in order to avoid making it louder, in order to avoid amplifying it. So we need to approach this issue very professionally, and we will have a preliminary filter as to what criteria we will be working with, and we are going to update our strategy. We have already taken that path since 2016, where the European Commission supported us with financial support and with expertise, and we have conducted the first stages of this work. And closer to the elections, we will work more actively towards those pre-election events. And given the timeline, we are working step by step. I think this much for now. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. And as to pre-election financing, we do receive both written and more detailed reports and information from the Oversight and Audit Service. Almost daily we hold discussions with them, and if any question is addressed to us, we are very open to discuss those issues, those problems, those questions with citizens, with civic society. And recently we had a meeting with the representatives of the Ministry of Justice as well. And I reiterated that I don't think we do everything perfectly, but we do our reasonable best, and we are always open to suggestions and recommendations. We are happy to discuss them and initiate our own initiatives to find solutions regarding the campaigns and the overall pre-election stage. And I have to say that not even once a party has reached the maximum threshold that raised these concerns. And by the way, the participation and the financing is higher now than previously. And I only mean the campaign financing for now, only that component. But in regards to other financial aspects, in regards to the coordination, to the organization that are directed to other aspects, they are very reasonably regulated by our legislation as to what costs, what budgets are considered reasonable. And we have upper limits, we have thresholds that will help us realize when we need to be more careful. But that does not mean that we only sit and wait to see if they will meet the threshold or not. We are ready for any scenario.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for your presentation. I was very glad to hear that you have already identified the overlapping challenges between Armenia and Moldova, and I am sure that Mr. Postica, the Moldovan CEC, and other institutions will be ready to assist and share their experience in that regard. Before we go over to Mr. Babikyan, I just wanted to let all participants know that when you're posting your questions, feel free to post them in any language. We can translate those questions. So if you feel more comfortable writing them in Romanian or Armenian, please feel free to do so. Just use the Q&A functionality in Zoom. Since Mr. Smbatyan mentioned financing, I would like to pass it over to Mr. Tigran Babikyan, who's the head of Oversight and Audit Service, also with the Central Electoral Commission of Armenia. And Mr. Babikyan, perhaps you could talk about how you and your team will monitor donations and party spendings during the campaign, and how you will escalate clear breaches, if there are any, hopefully not. And if campaign finance and campaign spending is targeted by misinformation and disinformation, could you please talk about how you will coordinate both with the communication team at the CEC to let the public know about them quickly, and how you will also work with the media to talk about these breaches should they occur. Mr. Babikyan, the floor is
yours. Thank you. I want to greet all of my partners and colleagues. And as Mr. Smbatyan mentioned, in regards to donations, I think it is more outside of our oversight and audit service, and we have a specialized unit who deals with that part. But I would like to tell you more about the functions and the overall work of the Oversight and Audit Service. First of all, after the registration of parties and coalitions and alliances, they are to open a pre-election fund within 5 days after registration. The fund is not there before that, and the fund is funded only through the bank accounts of the parties that have already been there. And those bank accounts are overseen by our service. And the oversight of donations is done by the Anti-Corruption Committee very separately. And all the parties, regardless of their spending or lack thereof, they are following our legislation. And if they do not open the account within the mentioned time frame, they will be fined. And if they do not still open the fund, the Central Electoral Committee will report them and they might lose their spot on the elections. So this is very strict. They need to have the official fund that is also overseen by the Central Bank of Armenia. There are 6 banks that can host the pre-electoral funds, and when they open those funds, and every 3 days after opening them, they report to the Oversight and Audit Service in regards to the incoming and outgoing funds of the foundation. And the Oversight and Audit Service publishes their information on the website of the Central Electoral Committee. And the accounts of the parties that send funds to the pre-election fund, to the campaign fund, every step of them, every step done by them is reported, namely how much money was transferred to their campaign fund. And all of those transactions are followed by the Oversight and Audit Service. And during the campaign period, they need to provide reports 3 times, on the 10th day of the campaign, on the 20th day, and the third one will be presented no later than 3 days before publishing the official outcomes of the elections. So what kind of information the Oversight and Audit Service receives and how the further oversight is conducted? Their reports must include the directions defined by the electoral code, and we have thresholds for the parties as to how much they can spend on their campaigns, and this includes their advertisements, political ads, online ads, outdoor ads, also compensation for their employees, the cost and the spending of them hiring event spaces. So basically, all kinds of campaign activities are limited with 8 million drams throughout the campaign per party. And after April the 1st of 2025, we have adopted the new amendments that do not allow private citizens to directly fund the campaign funds, but they transfer the funds to the party accounts, and then the party transfers the funds at its discretion to the campaign fund. And the results of monitoring are constantly published on our websites. We monitor the advertisement, the commercial prices on our radio and TV stations in order to oversee their spendings. And also there are the billboards allocated by the CEC, and their reports, the parties' reports, also include the receipts, the contracts, as to how and how much they pay for their ads. And taking this all into account, the Oversight and Audit Service publishes a conclusion after receiving each report as to whether the report was in compliance with the current legislation. We send our conclusions to the CEC, and if we see any wrongdoing in those reports, we discuss that within a meeting with the CEC and discuss the repercussions. And as Mr. Smbatyan told us all, the online campaigning is harder to oversee in all countries, I think, including in Moldova. And as far as I know, that they tried in Moldova to implement some mechanisms to see the online spendings better and in more detail. And we will try to integrate those approaches as well. But for now, one of our main concerns is the path to overseeing the advertising spendings of parties on social media, which is the easiest to disguise. And I think this much for now. If our partner from Moldova would like to direct questions to us and answer as to what exact steps you take in regards to financial oversight, I would like to hear about your experience as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babikyan. I'm sure there will be time to exchange experiences and questions between Armenian and Moldovan institutions. Our last speaker, Sona Ayvazyan, who's the executive director of Transparency International in Armenia. Sona, since you're representing civil society, perhaps you can talk about how Armenian civil society can most usefully reinforce transparency, fact-based communication, and election day problem solving without duplicating institutional roles. Thank you very much, Sona, and the floor is yours. And Mr. Babikyan, if you could please just mute your microphone, that would be, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I would like to start with the acknowledgement that since 2021, the Electoral Code and the related legislation have undergone significant changes, which not only promoted access to the electoral rights, but also safeguarded against the violations. There were legal amendments that basically changed the electoral system that related to the restricted the administrative resource use, regulated the political party funding, restricted party-related charities, regulated the oversight of political oversight and political finance, and there were a liability of violations, improved registration of observer groups. So, however, these multiple changes did not really bring to security. And as of ahead of 2026 elections, we as observer organizations do not really feel security. We do not feel that the elections are really safeguarded. And I would like to speak about these problems and what we are doing and what we think should be done also by the government. And I should say that civil society organizations working in the observation towards doing observation of elections, we are also doing a lot of advocacy to change the legislation and ensure these safeguards. So indeed, in 2026, we have much more sophisticated hybrid threats than we had before. There is too much disinformation, foreign information manipulation, and influence, and there are actual experiences in this from other countries. And it seems that the donors are focusing a lot on this hybrid threat and disinformation. However, we do not see as much attention brought to other issues which are not less critical. In particular, we are faced with a situation that we have unrestricted money flows during the elections. It's cash flows and crypto flows, which are not really controlled. We have completely unrestricted and not controlled third-party financing. We have rather poor oversight practices, though my colleagues from Armenia, they mentioned about the regulations that we have. However, the practices are not as strong as the regulations are intended. And there is foreign influence also through non-registered political movements and through fake observer organizations. And some of these challenges we understand that are difficult to tackle due to objective reasons. For example, like cryptocurrency monitoring, possibly there is not much experience in this, but some others might be problematic because of the timing, because we are very close to the elections. And for example, we cannot regulate some political party-related, registration-related issues. However, there are issues that can be regulated and shall be regulated, and we are working, as I mentioned, on the advocacy of those. First, at this moment, for example, first of the issues that I would like to stress is that at this moment, any political party can take part in elections, even if they are created just 2 days before the registration deadline. And some political movements are abusing this regulation, and they organize white campaigns, spend a lot of money, and they are not reporting and they are not accountable for money because they are not registered. And this creates unfair grounds for different political forces. This distorts competition, obviously, and there is an urgent need to regulate the activities of non-registered political forces, subjecting them to at least similar financial regulations or financial reporting regulations that exist for the registered political parties. The second thing is that we have rather loose requirements for observation groups. And there are some loose mechanisms also for ensuring compliance of observer groups to the political impartiality requirements. And there is a need for increasing the transparency of these observer groups and proper monitoring by the CEC of the organizations and of the leadership that they register as unbiased observers. The third thing is that though the legal persons, as my Armenian colleagues mentioned, the legal persons cannot contribute to the campaign fund. Those may spend money in support of political parties themselves. So they can campaign for the political parties themselves. For example, the mass media related to political parties or foundations related to political parties, they can spend money without due reporting, without transparency and control. There are some regulations, but they are very blurred. They are subject to misinterpretation. And the thresholds of funding that exist for the political parties that are monitored by the CC, they do not make sense anymore because there is so much money being circulated beyond that threshold. And it is necessary to ensure the transparency and accountability of third-party finance. And we need to include the funding of the related legal persons in the political party thresholds, and we need to restrict the unrelated third-party spending. And the fourth and the last one that I would like to stress is that, as again was mentioned, that according to recent changes of the legislation, the only source of campaign funding is the political parties themselves. Basically, this amendment was intended to ensure the integrity of the incoming money to be checked by the Corruption Prevention Commission. However, the timing of this oversight by the Corruption Prevention Commission was not factored in. I mean, the timing issue was not factored in. And in the campaign period, the bank statements on public political party finance are being published and checked by CAC. However, the whole pre-campaign period before remains gray. This information is supposed to be included in political parties' financial accounts in the following year. For the elections of 2026, this means that the public can see the incomes and expenditures made from January until April, until May, like early May, only in 2027, May in 2027, after these major political parties' financial reports undergo audit. So this approach really questions the preparedness of the country to ensure integrity of elections. And there is urgent need for regulation of campaign finance, transparency to ensure complete and timely access to data for the public, to both incomes and expenditures. And I would like to thank Mr. Postica for stressing two major things that we also think are necessary. The first, we should admit that the issues exist, and we should admit that there are vulnerabilities, and we have vulnerabilities, and we should prepare ourselves for those, for tackling those vulnerabilities. And the second thing is the cooperation and coordination, which needs to be done, coordinated by the government, obviously, but also engaging all the stakeholder groups. Thanks. I'll be ready to answer questions indeed.
Thank you very much, Sona, for walking us through the many challenges that the civil society has observed. And as the Moldovan experience shows, election integrity only benefits from the cooperation between institutions engaged in organizing and conducting the elections, as well as the civil society. And we, as election observers, keep our fingers crossed for this also to be the case in Armenia. We have a lot of questions. I would like to start with two questions that were asked in the chat to Mr. Postica. So the first question is, Mr. Postica, before elections, did you have a social communication and public awareness strategy in place? And if yes, how did you measure the effectiveness of those after the elections? So that's the first question to you. And then the second question is also to you, although you mentioned that you were able to respond to disinformation, cybersecurity challenges, and foreign interference in the context of the elections in Moldova, could you please share how intense the attempts of external interference were? Were these efforts limited only to disinformation campaigns, or were there also recorded cases of cyber interference? Mr. Postica, the floor is yours.
Da, mulțumesc.
Thank you very much. If in my presentation I talked about general aspects, and I'm very happy that you have questions. I would like to try to answer the last question or the first which you asked related to strategy of public communication that we had. Of course, we had a strategy of communication which we coordinated with our colleagues from the disinformation center, which made surveys and which asked about the main phobias of the electorate in Moldova and the way we answer such phobias, such fears. And we built our information campaign on it. We also had a partnership with our colleagues in the civil society. We tried to fight against disinformation and fake news, and we built a full information campaign with our colleagues from the civil society related to the impact. If we measured it afterwards, it's difficult to answer this question. I know that my colleagues from the Center to Fight Against Disinformation and Fake News make analysis and reports after the elections, but I do not have them at hand now, and this is why I don't want to talk about it. Related to the impact in elections, the first question related to cybernetic security, in order to have clear conclusions, I would like to highlight some figures. When we prepare our cybernetic systems for certain cybernetic attacks, we do stress tests. And in order to do this, we try to submit all our systems to several challenges by various methods. And what I want to say, these stress tests were exceeded in 2024 by 2.5 times. So if we got ready to 40,000 interpolations per second in our pages, in reality, they proved to be 100,000 such interpolations. So our calculus shows that in the campaign of cybernetic penetration attempt, there were more than 168 computers from all over the world. Related to communication and public communication, some mathematical figures in 2025 in all the campaign and what we managed to monitor with our partners who offered IT support to monitor the networks, the main networks, the main IT networks. We found that they used in the electoral competitors and third parties more than 100,000 euro in information campaigns before the elections by electoral competitors, 241,000 euro. As for the rest, up to 500,000 were external money, external actors' money. So as much as the competitors use, the others use as well. And this in order to understand that in 2024 we had a high challenge. More than 100,000 citizens in Moldova were corrupt in order to change their vote for their electoral option. And for it, according to the data documented by public authorities, there were almost 40,000 million euro. So these are figures in order to understand impact. So when we talk about 100,000 citizens, we are aware that if there were 1,500,000 thousand citizens, so 100,000 citizens is really a high figure. And the result for one electoral option was a little more than 10,000 votes. So I mean the difference between two parties. So we understand what such a figure may mean. 100,000 euro, which were corrupted. So these are impact figures, which which I can remember now in order to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. And next question to Sona. Sona Ayvazyan, what do you think is the biggest challenge for local Armenian CSOs in pre-election period? Is it lack of coordination, lack of funding, or anything else? And Sona, if you could try to speak a little slower, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. I wouldn't say that there is lack of coordination actually, because there are two major observation groups and both are partners with EPDE. So there is cooperation with together, we jointly do a lot of things. Also the advocacy for the electoral changes, and we coordinate the observation efforts, and we do cooperate with the regional NGOs as well. So there is this axis of and within the NGO sector, who is leading basically these election-related processes. In terms of the funding, a month ago we would be panicking pretty much, because we were not very successful in getting funding from the donors, and we were very much disappointed that the elections in Armenia in a so critical moment are not of interest of the donors. But it seems that getting closer to the elections, there is awakening up and more interest among the donors. What I would like to stress is that we need to think not only of the election period, speaking about the democracy, but also post-election period. This is what concerns us a lot, and also speaking about local government elections, which are not usually of interest of the donors. So these are issues that we should somehow raise to the agenda of the donors. So there is life also after the elections, and there are also local government elections, which need to be within the attention, and they should help provide financial assistance to those local groups, those observer organizations, or those citizen initiatives that would be pushing forward the civic oversight, that will promote integrity of the process. So this is what we should really focus on, besides focusing on these national elections in June 2026.
Thank you very much, Sona. The next question, two questions actually, to Mr. Smbatyan. The first question is about are there any regular coordination meetings with civil society planned ahead of the elections to coordinate on election integrity? I assume that was the intention of the person who asked this question. And the second question to you, Mr. Smbatyan, is the following. Earlier, the discussion touched upon experiences in supervising election campaigns in Moldova. Based on the practices and lessons that may be shared from Moldova's experience, in which you may find particularly valuable, would the Armenian Central Electoral Commission be able to incorporate them into its administration or legislation? Do you have the authority to do so? And is there sufficient time to implement serious changes? So those are two questions to you, Mr. Smbatyan.
Thank you for your questions. So in regards to the CSOs and our partnership, we do not have regular scheduled meetings, but outside of that, we do meet regularly. We are open in our communication, and whenever it is necessary, we are very open to call each other, meet, and discuss any issues. Now, in regards to Moldova's experience, we are studying it. We are in the early stages of studying it. I can pinpoint some aspects now. Sorry, I can pinpoint some aspects later. At this point, it is a bit difficult for now. And the tools that they have used for assessing internet advertisement spendings, we are studying that as well, and we are studying as to how we can speed up the implementation of the tool, which doesn't give us new information, but helps us organize and research better and see the possible links and connections between different parties. I suppose that is our priority for this stage. And also, we have studied how fast Meta's response has been in regards to the messages, the queries. We haven't gathered enough information on that yet. We are trying to find how we can be in more speedy contact with Meta in regards to their responses to our queries. And there might be problems as to how we are able to oversee the financial flows because the pre-election funds can only receive financial funds from the party accounts.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Smbatyan. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. If our speakers would like to make any final remarks or perhaps address a question to one another, perhaps this could be an opportunity to do so. If you would like to do that, maybe please raise your hand. I don't see that, but we have one last question. Yes, again, to Mr. Postica, again from Armenia, and let this be the final question for today. What role did journalism play in pre-bunking disinformation? Were journalists informed in advance about anticipated disinformation narratives? How do you distinguish pre-bunking disinformation from state propaganda in order to avoid undermining freedom of expression? Were there cases where preventive responses turned out to be inaccurate or had a counterproductive effect? Based on Moldova's experience, which mistakes should be especially avoided when applying strategies of pre-bunking disinformation? Mr. Secretary Postica, floor is yours.
I'd like to say that in Moldova, we negotiated in the good sense of we benefited from the support of the investigation journalists, and they highlighted various situations or even illegal financing schemes of electoral campaigns. We had situation here when the colleagues and journalists infiltrated amongst the people who wanted to organize sale and purchase of votes. I need to say that our colleagues, the journalists, used largely the official information made public by the Central Electoral Committee related to the financing of election campaigns. I want to highlight that the reports of pre-financing are weekly and made available weekly, and they become public except for the personal data, date of birth or personal number of the person and the domicile. As for the other data, they are all made public, and here I repeat, we benefited from it, and our colleagues from the civil society, the journalists made investigations which can say that a legal person or the employees of such a person made donations during the electoral campaign, even if they said, and based on such information, we started contraventional procedures. We initiated such procedures. We also had a quick cooperation related to information with the public authorities because the Central Electoral Committee benefits from automatic data swap or switch and the tax services as well, the police, etc. And when I received information on a certain donation and it exceeded a certain amount, we automatically could check if that person had enough income in order to make these donations. This is my quick answer to your question. I repeat, I cooperated with the civil society and with investigation journalists, and we benefited from journalistic investigations a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Since we do not have any additional questions, we can finish on time or even a couple of minutes before our scheduled ending. I would like to thank all participants all speakers for their very valuable and interesting presentations. As we've witnessed, there are many challenges that overlap between electoral process in both Moldova and Armenia, and also opportunities for Armenian civil society and institutions to work together and learn from one another for the sake of election integrity, which EPDE will always support, and we look forward to creating additional platforms for that exchange to take place. I think the main takeaway, for me at least, is that the cooperation between institutions and civil society organizations in countries where elections take place and where election integrity is at stake only benefits both actors. So I would like to leave everyone with that final remark. We will be, as EPD, we will be publishing analysis prior to the Armenian elections. We hope to be present on the ground. We very strongly support AGAC and Transparency International, so our two member organizations from Armenia. We are also very proud to have the Promo-LEX Association from Moldova among our members. So we are already a platform. We have been one for many, many years now. And if we can assist both Armenian and Moldovan institutions or civil society in building and sustaining dialogue for the sake of election integrity, please let us know. Please monitor our social media for any publications that may be coming up about Moldovan elections, and hopefully see many of you in Armenia later this year. Once again, thank you to all speakers, and I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully we'll see each other at similar occasions in the future. Thank you very much.